Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. Always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Always available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Good morning to you and yours. Thanks for joining us here until 10 o'clock or whenever you happen to be listening. Good morning, Amanda LaFratta. How are you?
Doing well, Dave. How are you?
A little goofy.
Okay.
So I've got one of those clocks that projects up on the ceiling, the time, so you don't even have to look over because that's how lazy we are as Americans. And so I looked at it, and I usually get up at 5, and I saw 5. I thought, went to start doing my work for the day, and it was 3. I mislooked at it. So I worked for 30 minutes. I was like, let's go back to bed for a little bit. And then time craziness happened again. For some reason at my gym, I had a mini panic attack. I looked up, and it was 7:30 in reality, but I looked up and it said 8:30. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm way late. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to miss the start of the show. And I don't know. It's just been a kind of a surreal, weird morning. But anyway,
Sounds like it.
we've got a lot to get to. And we're going to talk about the Vols and LSU. I promise you, Jacob Warren. I promise you, Cooper Mays. And we're going to get to that in the program today. And also some reasons why Tennessee should beat LSU. Again, it feels exactly like that Florida week. You go into it, and Tennessee should win. I think really the key is, LSU, and we were going to get into this, is a second half team when Jaden Daniels is playing quarterback for the Tigers. If Tennessee stumbles in the second half, or in particular the last 8 minutes of the game as they did against LSU, against Florida, it could be trouble against LSU. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, I think it could be trouble. I would like to see a Florida LSU matchup to see really who is the better team. I think they're about even. I would give the edge to Florida. So I don't see Tennessee, unless they just go there and fall flat on their faces and LSU has the game of the century, then I don't see how Tennessee doesn't come out with a victory here. I think they're just mismatched.
I agree. I mean, you look at if you look at the LSU's defensive backs, and they made, like you said, they made Auburn look fantastic. Robbie Ashford, the quarterback, and I think that Tennessee has every opportunity to win this game. You look at the X's and O's, and I can't see them not winning this game. I said the same thing against Florida, though, and they almost let that one slip away. So let's get to the down and dirty. Brought to you by Honeybee Coffee. Be careful there. The Down and Dirty at 30 brought to you by Honeybee Coffee. Amanda, why is Honeybee Coffee so good? It's the taste. It's fantastic. And I will add something else to Honeybee Coffee. And you can order online. I highly encourage you to do so. I'm not a coffee drinker. I drank 3 cups of coffee when you and I met there last week. And sometimes coffee gives me like a headache, and I think that it's because I've been drinking the cheap stuff from Mickey D's and stuff like that. But I felt great the rest of the day. So I don't know if that's the top 5% of the beans or whatever, but it's fantastic coffee.
It has to be the top 5% of the beans. The Mickey D's coffee. Well, we won't say Mickey D's, but we'll just say other coffee. Fast coffee is probably mostly water, and then you add in something that tastes like coffee in there a little bit, and that's probably what you're drinking. So it's different.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Maybe that's why I got turned off on coffee, but Honeybee has me turn on to coffee. All right, so I want to mention this because it's going to lead to today's tough question. We're going to talk about the most impressive record that Tennessee has still standing. American League has a new single-season home run king, and in reality, we think the first home run king of the clean era before and after Bonds, McGuire, and Sosa and all those guys. So Aaron Judge did hit his 62nd home run of the season. Tuesday night against the Texas Rangers. So he breaks the AL record and breaks what we think is the clean record. Now, 5 years from now, it could come out that he's on something, but we don't think that's the case. But we will see. But right now, Amanda, that's the record. And it would have been a disappointment if he was just at 61 and didn't break the record. So congrats to Aaron Judge. I sure hope 5 years from now we're not having a conversation if he wasn't clean, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Is it over now? Is it finally over now? Can we not be interrupted?
Yeah.
College football anymore? Is it done?
I think so. Okay. All right. So that will lead us to today's tough question eventually, and the top records in Tennessee sports history, Tennessee football history. So let's talk about the LSU game, though. Sports are pretty simple. You win or you lose. College football has ruled out ties, but Byron Young is a great example of how not reaching the goal, you can still be effective. He has only 1 sack on the year, but he has 10 quarterback hurries. So those hurries, he would love for them to be sacks, but they affect the game, Amanda. And one of those hurries was on the Hail Mary play against Florida. So that certainly affected the game. So while it's easy to say he doesn't have the sack numbers that you would like, I think when you look at Byron Young, he is one of the better. I'm not going to say one of the best. He's not of the same ilk of BJ Olajari or, of course, Will Anderson at Florida. He's a drop.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's
Will Anderson's at Alabama.
Will Anderson of Alabama, excuse me. He's not of that. He's not of that. He got traded, transfer portal. Will Anderson of Alabama. So he got he's in that second level, but just because he has just 1 sack in 4 games doesn't mean he's not a very good player.
I think people need to realize that, yes, sacks are great. You love sacks. You love, getting that negative yardage for the other team. However, sacks don't create interceptions. Sacks create maybe fumbles at times, but most times not. Hurrying the quarterback is what creates those interceptions. So his job and what he's doing may be just as important, if not more important, than getting a sack. If you're hurrying the quarterback, he's going to make a bad decision. He's going to throw the ball either away or he's going to make a bad read and interception. That's important to this game.
Yep, agree. Young's quickness could certainly come into play against LSU. The Tigers' offensive line they're big. They have 4 players that are playing over 320 pounds. They got 2 that tip the scales at over 350. So I would take the quickness over the size in today's game. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if Tennessee stumbles down the stretch, it could be bad news at LSU. In 10 second half possessions this season, Daniels has led LSU to 6 touchdowns and a field goal. Now, you might ask why 10, because he was out for part of the game with an injury. So that's pretty strong. 6 touchdowns and a field goal in 10 possessions. And in the fourth quarter, he's been even better. On drives that began in the fourth quarter, Daniels has led LSU to 4 touchdowns on 4 possessions. Garish saying, "Go Tigers." We shall see. I don't know if that's going to happen. But Daniels certainly is one that it seems like the game, Amanda, and some players are like this, that he kind of has to warm up to the game, and he gets better as the game goes on. You could say that's good or bad, tomato, tomato.
Well, the problem with that is LSU has played Florida State, which ended up being, a loss for them. And they've played Southern, New Mexico. They played Auburn. I would put Auburn in the category of Southern and New Mexico. They played, Mississippi State's been their one true test besides Florida State. And they were close. They beat Mississippi State, but that game was closer than it looks. And the way that they struggled against Auburn is a problem.
Yep.
It's just a problem. So these stats seem good for Daniels. Like, oh yeah, look at him, woo! But look at who they've played.
It's kind of like back in the day when Florida would play two patsies before Tennessee, and Tennessee would actually play a significant opponent, and that you would look at the stats and you would say, what point are these stats? I do think the fact that he's better in the second half says something. And what it says to me, in addition that Tennessee doesn't need to stumble, it says to me that Tennessee needs to come out in the first half, put the pressure on Jaden Daniels, start fast, which I hate when nobody says, let's go out there and start really slow. That would be awesome. So, but if you do put up some points early, you put a little bit of pressure on him. So, crowd noise. This was, I thought, of a great quote. Go to offthehooksports.com. Be sure and hit like and subscribe and share so that we can be a part of your Tennessee and SEC coverage. Crowd noise. Cooper Mays, Tennessee center, said, does it affect him? He goes, quote, not me personally. Everybody sits here and argues with me, even in the line, the offensive line. Jerome Carvin will argue with me all the time about talking about how the crowd affects him and stuff. And I was like, I don't think I've ever thought a crowd was really that loud. But it is funny that Cooper mentions that his teammate Jerome Carvin says it's a little loud and this is a little nerve-wracking. But Cooper says he just gets tunnel vision, and tunnel vision as a center seems like the perfect type of vision to have.
I mean, yeah, it does. Cooper's right in front of the quarterback too, so the crowd noise maybe doesn't affect him as much considering the quarterback's right here. So I think the crowd noise, the real reason it affects people is because they can't hear. They can't hear what the quarterback's saying. They can't hear what's going on because the crowd is so loud. But that makes sense that it wouldn't bother Cooper considering where he is.
Yeah, it's just Cooper. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch any of the videos of Cooper, I've stolen one of his phrases, and that is, I am where my feet are. In other words, you're not thinking about yesterday. You're not thinking about tomorrow. Do the best you can right there. And I've stolen that phrase from him. Here he is, a 21-year-old, and I'm 38. And excuse me. Yeah. And I've stole that phrase from him. I am where my feet are. That's just Cooper. And if you haven't watched any of those videos, the Vol Report, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, City Heat and Air. Go to cityheatandair.com. Over 50 years of integrity with City Heating and Air Conditioning. If you haven't seen any of those videos, you will just love Cooper's demeanor. I mean, it's just so relaxing. Refreshing would be a better word. The Vols don't have to worry about Tennessee's top recruit of the 2023 class making any last-minute changes. That, according to Caleb Jaroux, who is going to be at the LSU game and who is from Louisiana. And with Jaroux, I would assume, I haven't asked him, is somewhat Cajun. Tennessee fans don't have to worry about Nico Iamaleava. He is committed to Tennessee and remains fully committed. He said, quote, there's a lot of teams knocking on the door, man. He told Rivals 24/7 that they've just been in my Twitter lately, and I tell them all the same thing. I honestly don't even respond, but yeah, I'm locked in. So that to me is typical recruiting. You're not going to give up on him. And I don't believe that Nico is considering other schools, but if you think that other schools aren't recruiting him just because he's committed and there's some sort of gentleman rule, there's not, and there never has been, and there certainly is not with social media, Amanda.
No, how is there a gentleman's rule in recruiting? You're out here, it's a bloodbath. You're getting as much as you can, and who cares who you screw over? I mean, and this is college football. No one cares who you screw over. As long as you're winning the games, everyone is happy. But as my husband likes to refer to it, I guess all of these other teams are slipping into his DMs.
Yes.
That's what's happening. Slipping into them.
Is that the way the kids say it now? Slipping?
No, they sliding. My husband says slipping.
I mean, it sounds like Oh, well, this coach from A&M just fell into my DMs.
Yeah, just accidentally.
No, so I don't believe Nico's going anywhere. I think Tennessee's just fine there. But yeah, schools, I think if you go back to the 70s and 80s, and this would be before my time in recruiting, that when a guy committed, teams laid off of him, not because it was the right gentlemanly thing to do. I think they laid off because you couldn't connect as easy. You certainly couldn't travel as easy. The travel budgets weren't nearly as significant. And sometimes you had to hop on a train if you want to go before the 70s. And so I think when you committed back then, schools thought of it pragmatically as I am not going to continue to recruit this guy and waste resources. I don't think there's ever been a gentleman's rule, though, as far as you're committed and you're gone. I think that's been talked about, but that's never been the case. So back to Nico, Josh Heupel, and the quarterback coach, Joey Housel, making sure the number 3 quarterback in the class of 2023 knows he's a priority for the Vols. They were both in California over the bye week to visit Nico. That says an awful lot. They would go all the way to California, Amanda, for a guy who's already committed.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think that it just you have to stay on top of this because we've seen, and especially lately, we've seen a lot of people just decommit and flip. All of a sudden they were locked in completely, like TJ Parker, completely just committed 100% to Penn State, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. They've decommitted. They're looking at other places, looking at other options. So if you want to keep your recruit happy, this is what you have to do. You have Texas A&M flying out to Hawaii to try to recruit somebody several times. So you got to do it.
The other thing, too, in that area, it doesn't hurt just to be there.
Sorry.
For other prospects, Aryan Foster, Tennessee wasn't even really interested until Randy Sanders was out recruiting Casey Clausen and decided to stop over in Arizona and saw this guy named Aryan Foster and decided to offer him. So, I mean, that area, especially with kids thinking about traveling to the Big Ten back and forth, listen, there's nothing wrong. I'm sure Nico wasn't the only guy they visited. Crazy said, "Be where your feet are." Pretty sure that's a Ram Doss quote. Who's Ram Doss? I don't know who that is. Amanda, do you know who that is?
No.
We shall see.
Sorry.
Tennessee faced one very mobile quarterback this season. Of course, we know that didn't go great as Anthony Richardson had a career day for Florida. LSU's Jaden Daniels isn't exactly the same kind of quarterback as Richardson, but he is quick. We'll see. Brian Jean-Marie, Tennessee's linebackers coach, said they are similar, different body types, and Richardson's bigger. I don't think they're the same, but I think in some sense your defensive approach is the same, and just make sure you have gap containment. I know people get sick of talking about the X's and O's part of it, but I think that's what you have to do. Make sure he doesn't escape, and he is faster. He is a step faster than Anthony Richardson, but he's not going to drop the boom. Speaking of quarterbacks, and I've texted my source in Alabama. We may hear something before the end of the show. But I mean, Alabama is pretty as tight as anybody when it comes to injury. There's been some scuttlebutt, and I don't want to give too much credence to random Twitter people. You don't like the word scuttlebutt?
I just don't understand it. It reminds me of like the Little Mermaid. I don't know why. Every time you say scuttlebutt, I think of the Little Mermaid.
Well, so there's been some scuttlebutt that Bryce, if that word makes you smile, then I'm going to use it over and over and over again.
I don't know.
Yeah, check out my scuttlebutt. So there's been scuttlebutt that Bryce Young, or rumors, may be out 2 weeks. I would put him out this week and next week against Tennessee, a 3:30 start. Boy, if that's the case, Amanda, that is, I don't know if that's good or bad for Tennessee. You face a different quarterback. You don't face the Heisman Trophy winner, but they got a kid who's pretty good behind Bryce Young that I know you've been very impressed with.
Yeah, you have if you're Tennessee, you want Bryce Young to play. And I know that seems insane considering it's Bryce Young. He's, your Heisman winner from last season. You want him to play because the guy sitting behind him, Jalen Milroe, will kill you with his legs. He throws bombs and he will kill you with his legs. Just hands down. And I want to say that I am very unhappy about this game coming up. And it's not because of, the win, the loss, whatever. I had tickets to the game. And I have to go to a wedding.
Nobody
Nobody
in the South should ever schedule a wedding on Saturdays in the fall. Nobody. That is a shame. Shame on whoever is getting married. Celebrate their event, but know deep down in your heart that you detest them.
I love their family. Trust me, I love their family. And who they're getting married to is an NBA family. So I guess this is their time to do it. So I guess I understand that, but I'm just so mad that I am missing this game. And I had tickets.
Brittany says that's why we got married in April. Yes.
January.
And I will tell you this too. The reason I moved houses 3 times in August at the time, but now SEC Media Days has been moved up to July, was so that my wife could oversee the move. By the 3rd time, she said, "Wait, we're moving during SEC Media Days again?" I said, did that happen? What a coincidence. And I'm
I'd kill
out.
you.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm in Birmingham, and I'm like, you take care of it. You got this. Well,
Nope.
I did pay for the movers. All right, it is time for today's tough question. Today's tough question is brought to you by our friends at Pedigo Chattanooga. Pedigo Chattanooga is family owned. Pedigo Chattanooga is all about giving you the best e-bike experience you can imagine, whether it's a rental or whether it's a purchase, and know that you have service there. If you just buy one randomly online, you're not going to have service because they're different types of bikes. It's not like a vehicle. So Pedigo Chattanooga, our friend Jacob Warren was by there the other day, and you can hear him on our YouTube page. And our YouTube page has Jacob Warren, it has Chris Landry, it has Josh Ward, it has John Adams. So go subscribe, and we would love to be a part of your Tennessee and SEC coverage. And I will say that I'm pretty proud of the product, and a lot's going on. Ron Slay will be a part of the family starting, I believe, next week. I can't tell you 100% that it's going to be a week from today, but I believe that's the case, and we look forward to that. So today's tough question is now.
We do our research. Have you done your research?
We're working like heck.
Today's tough question. What's the real debate?
You sipping my soupe, Guadalupe?
Exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker and Amanda LaFratta.
You drinking my sake, Kimosabi?
Oh my God.
So the reason I started this show with baseball, and Crazy Nugs, by the way, saying baseball is boring.
He hates it.
Yeah, and that you should just let them get juiced. I kind of agree with that, but it leads us into football, so stick with me for a second. I would be okay if they just let them take whatever they wanted to. Because really, if you think about it, they took greenies back in the day, which were speed pills. They'd have like a tub full of greenies like it was Halloween, and you take the amphetamines so that you can get through the dog days of summer and you're all hyped up. And LASIK, if you wanted to, you could say that that's performance enhancing. They all have that. They see better in 2020. But anyway, that's a whole different debate. But Aaron Judge does break what I believe is the clean record, because I believe he is clean. So let's talk some records here. I don't know.
Cleaner than Derek Jeter.
What about Jeter?
Said he's cleaner than Derek Jeter.
Oh, yeah. Stuff Jeter's got that worse than steroids. Okay, so Tennessee's unbreakable records, because Tennessee has some. So I don't know if you want to phrase this, Amanda, as what is the most impressive or what direction you want to go here. But I want to throw a couple at you that are pretty darn impressive. So Peyton Manning's 11,201 passing yards. So, I mean, I just don't see that ever being broke, because Peyton Manning wasn't supposed to play in his first year, and we all know Jeremy Colquitt got hurt in the first drive at UCLA. So he was able to play pretty much all 4 years. You had Casey Clausen, who was 1,500 yards behind Manning, yet he did play 4 years. He was a 4-year starter. So I don't think that it's impossible for that record to be broken, but it's a pretty impressive record. Here's one. What is the most impressive record for Tennessee football? Fuad Reveiz hit, guess how many, Amanda? 50-plus yard field goals in one season. Guess how many?
Give me a second.
Okay. Because one's a lot.
What year is this?
Fuad would have been in the mid-early 80s.
Okay. Just amount of games is what I'm trying to tally here.
Okay. So it would have been 11 games.
Okay. I'm going to go with 7.
Ooh, pretty close. 8 50-yard field goals. And quick Fuad story. I'm going through some old football cards that I had. This is a couple of months ago, and I found a Lawrence Taylor and a Jerry Rice rookie that in perfect mint condition had sold for $70,000. So we would be in a whole different place as far as studio space had they been in mint condition. They were not, Amanda. But I'm flipping through and I see Fuad Reveiz, and I text him and I'm like, "Hey, dude, I just saw your baseball card. Do you want it? I'd be glad, or your football card. I'd be glad to give it to you." And he said, "Is it the one with the big afro?" And I said, "Yeah, that's the one." And he's poof. He's got the big hair. And he said, "No, you can keep it." But yeah, 8. That's pretty impressive. All right. So some other records, and you tell me what you think is the most impressive. Andy Spava had 547 career tackles. 547. Second place on the UT tackles list was AJ Johnson. And in his best year, he had 130 stops. And that is well shy of what Spivey did. So that's going way back, 547 career tackles. And you had Chuck Webb with 294 rushing yards in a game. I remember Chuck Webb, and I remember it was one of the first games I ever went to, and that's the game that he blew out his knee. Was it against, somebody might help me here, it was Tulsa, or gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head. It was on that terrible, terrible green turf that they had that they finally tore up. And then the last one that has to be the most impressive in my mind is 15 straight shutouts. And you have to go back to the 1930s and 40s. But to have 15 straight shutouts, I don't see that one falling ever. So maybe it's a runaway, but 15 straight shutouts. And they went 11-0 that year and didn't win the national championship. Without being scored upon. 12-0, I'm sorry. They didn't give up a point and didn't win the national championship.
How do you do that?
There was a lot of bias against the SEC back in the early part of the last century.
So this is just like a named national title.
Right. So like it's the same reason that Notre Dame that Paul Hornung won the Heisman with a losing record over Johnny Majors, who had an incredible year. So there was a lot of bias in that regard. But yeah, they went 12-0 undefeated and unscored upon. So we can roll with those 4 if you want to say most impressive, however you want to phrase it. And was it specific? John, thank you. Yes, Tennessee was playing Pacific in that Chuck Webb game. Chuck Webb is one of those players had he not gotten hurt, or had he been around today where they could repair ACLs, that he would have been a borderline, I believe, all pro, Pro Bowl type of player. No, there's no question in my mind. But back then, much like Gale Sayers, when he blew out his knee, you were just even if you were able to come back, it was over. You're a different player. You heard those 3 letters ACL, and it was like, oh well, it's time to go get my degree or get a job at UPS. And that's just how it was. So,
Okay. Yes.
yeah, UPS is a good gig.
I mean, yes, I'm not saying those are random, like pull out of the, hat. Get a job at Target where it's like $20-something an hour.
That's true. That's true. You could do that. And
For a different day.
Today's tough question is brought to you by The Mattress Place. 22 years on Chapman Highway. The Mattress Place is about integrity, and The Mattress Place has a huge selection of mattresses. No gimmicks, just 30 to 70% off each and every day. The Mattress Place on Chapman Highway, closer to Knoxville than you might think. You hear Chapman Highway, you think it's far away. It's like 2 miles. So get there. Great selection. A+ accredited member of the Better Business Bureau. Tell them that Off the Hook Sports sent you. Over 225 5-star reviews on Google. So I mentioned Cooper Mays. We'll get to him here momentarily. We'll continue to get to your comments. We're loaded up today, and I can tell that you're getting excited about the LSU game. It's in the air, so keep the comments coming, and we'll roll with you. Back in 2 minutes.
Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes, folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus a complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Welcome back. She's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. Some people weighing in on Chuck Webb. Webb was the best young running back talent I've ever seen at Tennessee. A real bummer he wasn't able to complete his college career. True. We talk about the talent they had there, Marlon. You add in Reggie Cobb, Tony Thompson. Wow. They were really, really good. And we actually had Tony on the program. Maybe we'll reach out to Reggie at some point. But Tennessee LSU is, of course, this week. And Trevor's saying the electricity is in the air, Dave. I agree. You can feel it. And going down there, going to LSU, you'll feel the electricity there. Amanda, do you think we make too much of the early kickoff helping Tennessee? Or is the early kickoff significant? Because if you look at LSU's record in those games, they have been at the 11 o'clock Central kickoff. They're 8-0, 6 against SEC teams. And Amanda, that's still pretty good. It's still a tough place to play. Are they going to be as drunk? Probably not. But are they going to be formidable? Is that a tough place to play? Yes. So are we overplaying the advantage of not having to play at night, or just about right?
I think it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at crowd, if you think crowd noise is a huge factor, then no, it's not being overstated, because that crowd at 11 a.m. Central Time will be hungover. We know that. They're hungover. And that is not going to make for a pretty sight. Some of them will oversleep that game. I don't think you're overstating it. Now, if you're talking about the players, then maybe. I mean, it depends on, I think it comes down, this game's going to come down to coaching. It's going to come down between Brian Kelly and Josh Heupel. And so I think you put your money where your coach is. And you have Hendon Hooker on, Tennessee's side versus Jaden Daniels, and I'd take Hooker every day, all day. So that's where I think it comes down to it. 11 o'clock, the only reason it would matter is crowd. That's the only reason.
I was talking to Caleb Calhoun, and all the way back in 2009 when Tennessee hired Lane Kiffin, he said he was an absolutely huge proponent of hiring Brian Kelly at the time. So had Tennessee hired Brian Kelly, they couldn't the following year when Lane was gone, because at that point, Kelly had continued to establish himself as a solid coach at Cincinnati. So you couldn't just go get him like you could have the year before. Where's Tennessee right now if they would have hired Brian Kelly instead of Lane Kiffin, if you want to play the what if game? And fill up our message boards with your thoughts on that, because maybe that should have been today's tough question. But Amanda, I think Brian Kelly is a very solid coach that had some restrictions. For those that don't know, at Notre Dame, you have no say in discipline with your players. That's a university handled issue. You have no say in players being admitted. That's total university. Doesn't matter if that you might be able to fudge at some other schools and get a guy in that probably shouldn't be in. So you have none of that. So a lot of those guys that Lou Holtz, and Randy Moss is one of those guys that Lou Holtz tried to get in, was not allowed to go to Notre Dame. A lot of those guys are game changer type of players. The flip side, if a kid goes to a Catholic school, you've got an inside with him. Harrison Smith is a great example there in Knoxville. But for the most part, there are a lot of guys that you can't go get in the recruiting pool, Amanda. So where do you rank Brian Kelly among the top coaches in the nation? I mean, to me, it's Saban, obviously. And then the next level's Smart. And then to me, there's another drop off. Is Brian Kelly in that next group of the Lincoln Rileys of the world?
I haven't seen enough from Brian Kelly. I've seen him at Notre Dame, and you can say, it's hard to recruit there and yada, yada, yada. But Brian Kelly was there when it wasn't really that difficult to recruit at Notre Dame. I mean, there was no NIL, there was no, paying players, there was no any of that. So Notre Dame may be, Catholic and a lot more, I guess, unwilling to hand over the reins to the coaches. But back then, you still had boosters. You still have huge Notre Dame boosters. You had, and I know we're going to say, and I don't care what anybody says, everybody was doing it. Everyone was paying their players under the table. It was all happening. So, and Notre Dame has academic standards, but we know that we see it all the time. People get around that. anything that anybody else was doing, Notre Dame was doing it too. So I haven't seen enough out of Kelly, especially not with, the teams that Notre Dame played and how they just got destroyed when they would go up against a pretty fierce opponent like Alabama. I haven't seen enough out of Brian Kelly to really know how great he is. I have to see a coach in the SEC and see how he plays there before I can really tell you, oh, he's a great coach, or oh, he's not a great coach. Like, I think Lincoln Riley bolted once Oklahoma was headed to the SEC. And I know it might have just been coincidental timing, but I would have to see more out of Brian Kelly because we're looking at Jimbo Fisher right now and it is not looking pretty. And everybody thought he was one of the best. So.
No, we thought Jimbo Fisher was. So let's say there are two tiers that are pretty clear cut, and that would be Saban, the Saban tier, right? He's by himself. The next tier would be Kirby, and I'm going to include Dabo because you've got two guys that have won a championship. Now, I think Dabo's best days are behind him, but we'll see. And then the next tier are to me, the Lincoln Rileys, the Brian Kellys of the world, the guys that have gotten to a college football playoff and haven't been able to complete and win a championship. I will say this: I would rather have Brian Kelly than I would Lincoln Riley or the other coaches in that grouping. If I had to make that hire today, if you told me that you can hire any coach, and this is Hooker University, which Hooker University, where we pimp out the scholarships, and so Hooker University. And I can hire anybody I want to, but Nick Saban's not leaving, Dabo's not leaving, and Kirby Smart's not leaving. Brian Kelly's probably at the top of my list. I'm taking him over to Lincoln Riley. I'm really racking my brain. Trevor says Josh Heupel. I've got to see more from Josh Heupel. I've got to see him be able to, and we've talked about this, and people have gotten upset with Chris Landry for saying this. He has to prove that they can win games defensively, that they can win games that aren't just shootouts. And he started doing that against Pitt. I get it. But that needs to be more. And he's got to prove that his defense is going to be on the same level as his offense. I think that'll happen eventually, but it's not there yet. Who would you hire? Those three excluded, the three that I mentioned that have won championships.
So I think Josh Heupel, again, I'm very high on Josh Heupel. I think he's done a lot with very little at Tennessee. He is, it's not been great. We've all seen, I hate it for you guys, but it was a dumpster fire. It was literally a dumpster fire for the last 10 years before Heupel got there, even longer. So he's done a lot with a very little. And he's gotten a fan base behind him that's ready to fire coaches after 3 years. Let's not play. So I'm very impressed with what he's been able to do at Tennessee. Now, do we have to put morals out there? Or can we just throw those to the side?
So that's what I was thinking. Somebody brought up John Gruden and Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer or Hugh Freeze. Those would be my hires.
Speaking of hookers.
It all ties together.
Yeah, I would. Okay, Urban Meyer, I don't think's coming back, and it is funny to me that Nebraska and every fan base that needs a new coach because they fired one early in the season to get a head start on somebody thinks Urban Meyer's going to show up and salvage the program. Urban Meyer's not going to go any place that doesn't have a strong in-state talent base, and he's probably not going to go anywhere anyway. Because let's face it, he did what he did at Utah to get to a place like Florida with great talent, won there because talent's in his backyard, and then went to Ohio State, which he had ties to, and they have great talent there in that area. He's not going to go to a Nebraska or Wisconsin and have to recruit as hard as he did at Utah. That you benefit off your credibility through the years. He's just not going to do that. So that to me is the equivalent of when Tennessee fans had the groomers They wanted John Gruden to show up, which was never going to happen. And
How are we with hookers and groomers? How are we here?
I don't know. We got here talking about the levels of quarterback, levels of coaches, and I think Josh Heupel does deserve to be considered if you want to look at him as far as a young coach with upside. So I think you could make the argument that you have seen what you've seen out of Lincoln Riley, and they're very similar. So maybe you want a young guy like Josh Heupel. I could make that argument. I couldn't make the argument over Brian Kelly because he got Notre Dame to a college football playoff. Now they got hammered by Alabama. But as far as that third tier of coaches, I would have Kelly at the top, and it would not stun me. As a matter of fact, let me ask you this, Amanda. If you had to bet a mortgage payment, does Brian Kelly win a national championship at LSU?
I have to
Yes.
bet a mortgage payment.
Yes.
Do I have a time frame of when he?
Nope. Zero time frame. He could coach there 20 years to his 80s.
I'd take the field. I'd say no.
I would say yes.
You have Texas coming in with like Oklahoma coming in. I mean, Saban's still here. I don't know how long he'll be here. Josh Heupel's shown a lot of promise at Tennessee if he stays. I mean, Kelly has the talent down there. I want to see what he's able to do with it. But I would take the field on that one. And you have Kirby Smart, Georgia. I'd take the field.
Yeah. Probably the safe bet to take the field. If he coaches there 10 years, let's say 10 years, I would say that he wins a national title at some point. Now, you mentioned something with all these coaches opening, and really Tennessee is the one who started this trend because they fired Philip Fulmer earlier than was traditional for a reason, because they thought Lane Kiffin was going to get the Washington job at the time. So that's why they made the move. And Lane kind of played Tennessee a little bit. He was more interested in Tennessee than Washington at the time by far. But in some ways, Lane leveraged Philip Fulmer out of his job. And Lane ends up getting the job. And now you see that a lot of these schools are making early firings in order to get a head start on the hiring process. You see that in Nebraska. You see that in a lot of other schools. So is Josh Heupel a candidate for any of these potential openings? I say no, because I don't see a job that's better. I mean, Nebraska's not a better job. That's going to be tougher to recruit there. Forget about in-state talent one way or another, but Tennessee does have better in-state talent with Nashville. Tennessee has more resources to recruit. Amanda, I don't think that's any. I don't see a school out there that would be even a lateral move as far as a coaching vacancy for Josh Heupel. I don't.
There's only one. There's only one job that I think he might take. And we've seen them this season. They look like hot garbage. They're not used to looking like hot garbage since the days of Stoops. That's the only one I could see. And not to, I wouldn't necessarily blame Josh Heupel because it's your alma mater. It's where you played. It's where you won a national title, all of that. So I think there's only one job I could see him possibly leaving Tennessee for, and that's the only one. Oklahoma is the only one I could see. And it wouldn't have anything to do with talent. It wouldn't have anything to do with, recruiting. It wouldn't have anything to do with that. It would just have to do with like Coach Bryant said, when mama comes calling, you go. So, I mean, that's it. That's the only thing I can think.
Possible. A lot of things would have to change. And Kevin just saying bridges were burnt at OU. They were. He got fired at a time when they should have fired Bob Stoops' brother. Yeah. And he was the defensive coordinator. So at the time, they're scoring right at 40 points a game. And Heupel's the offensive coordinator. And essentially, Bob Stoops, to save his rear, had to fire somebody. So you can't fire your brother. I guess. And so he fired Josh Heupel. So there's some bridges that have been burnt there. I think the entire administration would have to change, which can happen for him to consider going back there. I think we're talking 2, 3, 4 years down the line. I think they're pretty happy with what they have going on right now.
No, they're not.
Oklahoma?
No.
Yeah. I mean, long term, you don't think they like Brent Venables?
I mean, look at what he's done this season. It's embarrassment. They are embarrassed. I mean, they have looked like, again, hot garbage this season. I mean, they're 3-2 already. It's, you're 5 games into the season. Oh, this is not Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't like this. And it's not like they lost a bunch of talent. I mean, they just switched coaches.
Well, I said at the time, I thought it was a bad hire. But I get the sense that they're going to at least write it out. So I guess we could get it in this discussion, and that is if Brent Venables has trouble at Oklahoma, then yeah, where are they in 2 or 3 years? Do they come calling Josh Heupel again? I would believe firmly that would take not a top to bottom. It doesn't have to be the president of the university or the chancellor, but that would take a significant change in the athletic department. And maybe that will be. I just didn't get the hire of Brent Venables. And it's one of the few times I think Chris Landry and I kind of disagreed. To me, you need to hire a guy who can manufacture points. You need to hire a guy who can go out and do that. And I know they have an offensive coordinator supposed to be able to do that, blah, blah, blah. But it's the way your program is set up. It's the way that Tennessee's program is set up. There's more emphasis put on offense in practice, not just in games. So I didn't think Brent Venables was a very good hire from the get. What did you think when he was initially hired there?
I didn't even know who he was. I'm not going to lie. I was like, I don't know who this guy is. But I mean, I know Oklahoma fans had high hopes for him, but this season they have flipped the script. They've kind of done what UT did in reverse. So, I mean, they beat UTEP, Kent State, and Nebraska. Those are the teams that they've beaten. They've lost to Kansas State and not even just lost to TCU, got embarrassed by TCU by 31 points. Like they're not happy over there. They're not happy.
When I say happy, I thought happy with the hire, but probably not. I was thinking more long term. But you bring up a great point. This is not a program that was a complete disarray that you're trying to rebuild. So
they're pretty good.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. We greatly appreciate that. But I don't believe JL says Heupel isn't going to anywhere. OU bleeped on him. Yes, they did.
Was it OU or was it Stoops? That's where you have to, because if Stoops had complete control of that program, it's not like somebody could have stepped in like the athletic director and said, no, you're not firing him. You got to fire him. They gave Stoops the complete control of that program. So is it really Oklahoma or is it Stoops that Heupel would have a problem with?
Well, Stoops is still associated with the program, so it may be one and the same, but probably Stoops. And it was his decision. I doubt the athletic director said you have to fire the offensive coordinator instead of your brother. And Stoops is very involved with the program, as RG1 pointed out. With that whole situation, let's take a step back and forget the fact that Josh Heupel played at Oklahoma. Let's take a big step back and just say, what's the better job? What is the better job given in-state talent? And sometimes when I say in-state, I'm sort of referring to Atlanta as well, because it's just, less than 2 hours or less than 3 hours away. So I include that to some extent. Oklahoma, there's not a lot of talent. And let's take it a step further. Resources, I think that Tennessee is right up there. the way that they will embrace a successful coach is right up there. Any allegiance aside that Josh Heupel might have to Oklahoma because he played there, I have to take a step back. And when I remove that, which is the better job? Amanda, which is the better job? If you were given this, they come to you and they say, Coach LaFratta, we are going to hire you to be the head coach. And you're like Lane Kiffin. You can go to Washington or you can go to Tennessee. Tennessee was obviously the better job. You can go to Oklahoma or you can go to Tennessee. No allegiances. Where are you going?
Well, God bless you for thinking that, you're going to hire me. That's nice. But second, if I were not okay, if Oklahoma were not going to the SEC, I would go to Oklahoma. And the only reason why is because playing in the Big 12 is much easier than playing in the SEC. I mean, much easier. We've seen that. You just go in there. I mean, you had Texas who sucked for the last, however long. And you just go in there and all you do is just sweep it up with these like not awful, but mediocre teams. The SEC, you're playing against the best of the best, especially at Tennessee. You're playing Alabama, Florida, and Georgia every single season.
Well, but they are going to be in the SEC probably as early as.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. Is I would have Big 12. If I were going, I would have gone to Oklahoma. I'd have picked Oklahoma just because of the Big 12. Now that they're coming to the SEC, I would take Tennessee. I think Tennessee's better. I think you're going to get better talent at Tennessee, like you pointed out. I think that you're going to have more money to do with what you will at Tennessee. I think it's a better job if you're just focused in on the SEC. I would say Tennessee.
Here's the other thing too. Do you wonder if Lincoln Riley pulled a Jimbo Fisher? Was his recruiting as good as it should have been or was when he was hungry? Because at some point in his mind, before USC came calling, he had to think to himself, maybe this isn't the place for me. That's what cracks open the door. So maybe the talent level is not as high, because Jimbo Fisher left Florida State in just a mess of not any talent whatsoever. He knew he was cruising out of there. He knew he was going somewhere, and he took his paycheck and he'll make $100 million, and good for him. But you wonder if Oklahoma if there might be any similarity there. I don't know, but they're certainly not playing well now. You can watch them play. No, they're not good. And I just don't think other than Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, who have accepted, well, Nick Saban has, Kirby Smart really hasn't, an up-tempo spread offense. Who's the defensive coach out there that's winning with defense?
You don't anymore. I mean, not even Nick Saban, not even Kirby, neither one of them are winning with defense. I mean, Kirby has a strong defense, don't get me wrong, but neither one of them, you're not winning without being able to score points. You're not winning without elite running backs and wide receivers that can snatch the ball out of the air from anyone. You're not winning without those things. So the defense is good. Don't get me wrong. They're good. But in today's college football, if you have to pick between a prolific offense or a really good defense, you're taking the offense. You're taking the offense all day.
Brittany with a good point. Maybe I'm super biased, but I feel like Danny White is the AD to work for right now. Well, he's come in and he changed a lot of things. I mean, you look at, he has managed to, he's the guy ultimately. The hiring of coaches is important, but putting together the dollars for facility upgrades in baseball and football and all the things that they've been able to do over there, that's what Danny White and an AD is ultimately supposed to do. I mean, you make the right hire, yes, you've got to do that, but they've got search firms for that if you want to go in that direction, guys that know more about football or basketball or baseball than you do. But ultimately, it's your job to have the best foundation for the university. It's not to just go make a splash hire and change things. So Yeah, Danny White, I think, would certainly be the AD to work for right now. And I like Danny White's spunk a little bit. I like when he called out Auburn.
Yeah,
Still wonder if he got chided by the SEC for that.
I
Behind
doubt it. I think we would have heard about it. But all I'm saying is that Danny White, she does make a very good point. He would be the guy to work for. I mean, he definitely would be the guy to work for. It seems like he doesn't care much about what people think. It is, I'm going to do what I do. And here we are. Saban's the same way. I'm going to do what I do. And if you don't like it, then you can lump it, basically. But we're looking at an Oklahoma. We're
I
looking at.
haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
Don't like it, lump it. That may be
Yes.
a new bit.
I don't, well, maybe. But Oklahoma, we're talking about having the same losses in 5 games as they did in 13 games last season. And at week 12, they had 2 losses. That's when they got to 2 losses. And they were to two ranked teams, Baylor and Oklahoma State. Those were their 2 losses last season. And look at what's happening this season. I'm just saying the fall off here is incredible.
Yep. You can watch wins and losses at Big Orange Phillies. Big Orange Phillies right there in North Knoxville. It's on Maynardville Pike. It's convenient to Halls and Powell and Maynardville, and it's family friendly. They've got billiards, they've got darts, they've got cornhole, they've got everything you can imagine, and great food. We ate there, and it was absolutely fantastic. Another good point by Brittany. Brittany's throwing heat today. Definitely think UT would be the better job with them joining the SEC. She's referring to Oklahoma joining the SEC. I agree. If it's in the Big 12, like Amanda said, if you want to make the college football playoff, which would give you some sense of job security, even if you never won a championship and got hammered by Alabama and Georgia every year, nobody's going to fire you for getting to the college football playoff once every 3 years, ever. And if that's what your goal is, then OU is the better job before they join the SEC.
Exactly. The Big 12, if you can get a job in the Big 12 and you can recruit halfway decently, go to the Big 12 because you can win. You can win in the Big 12. In the SEC, you are going up against toughest opponents with the baddest coaches out there, and baddest as in best.
Great feedback. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're going up against these guys every single year, every single season. Like I pointed out, Tennessee's going up against Alabama, Georgia, and Florida every single season. It's not like they do Alabama, once every 6 years. It's every single season. So you got to take that in consideration.
I love the interaction with the message board today, guys. Great stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I've teased again the Jacob Warren interview, which I have queued up. But if you want to go to our YouTube page, you can listen to it, because I don't know that we're going to have time for it, because I love the interaction. John saying, is Ohio State a perennial playoff school if it was in the SEC? As long as it's still in Ohio, I would say yes, because I think the talent is that good there, and they dominate the talent just this short of LSU. The only school that even comes close when I covered recruiting, the kids saying they're going to stay in state. Now, some went to Michigan, but the only state school that even came close to LSU as far as kids saying, I ain't leaving if they want me, was Ohio State and the state of Ohio. Kids just did not regularly leave there. So, I think Ohio State, if they were in the SEC, Amanda, is hands down a perennial playoff team. I think they're there every year. Now, do they beat Alabama or Georgia? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think they're there every year. In college football playoff, if they're in the SEC, are they there every year? No.
Okay, I assume we're saying the 4 and not the 12.
Correct.
I think they would be at least 4, 5, or 6 every single year, which would be right on the cusp, which would be making it. I think let's put it this way. I think they would make it 50% of the time, and the other 50% be knocking on the door. Are we kind of on the same page there, or is that too strong?
That's too strong for me. I think that they may make it once every 4 or 5 years, maybe. I just don't think that when they come up against SEC opponents and we're taking out, the was it 2013 or 2014 where they played Alabama, we're going to take that out. Other than that, when they come up against like really good SEC teams, they normally don't come out great on the other side. I just don't think, or at least not to my recollection, I just do not see them I know they have great talent and I get all of that, but I think if you stuck them in the SEC, they would have at least 2 losses every season, if not more.
Then we get in this hypothetical of what would the conference look like? Would the East include Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia, or would they be in the West? Or I don't know. So if they had to, okay, I'm going to amend what I said. If they had to play Alabama and Georgia every year like Tennessee, no, they would not be as good as what I just said. If they had to play one of them, then I'll stick by they're in the playoffs 2 out of 4 years, 50% of the time. You don't have to worry about 50% of the time when it comes to the chill pills. They work every single time. Chill pills are fantastic. They have specific formulas for issues like arthritis and digestive issues. Make your pet and wallet happy by using the exclusive code off the hook, available at crafttreats.com. You save 20% at checkout with the exclusive off the hook discount code. So that's all you got to do. And it helps with pet anxiety. It helps with also arthritis. My dog is way different when it's able to take advantage of the chill pills, which is pretty much daily. So check them out. Don't forget, you save 20% at checkout with exclusive code off the hook. Your pet and your wallet will thank you for that. I want to get right back to what everybody has to say about coaches. What would Ohio State be? And we'll talk some LSU as well. Back in 2 minutes. Stick with me.
It's Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ottawa. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do, and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Folks, don't make a mistake. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars. If you're in the Knoxville area and you don't go to andymasonrealestate.com, crazy. Because I made that mistake. I went to school with Andy in high school. I didn't know he became a realtor right out of high school. So he's been doing it for a lot of years. Andy, I don't want to age you here, but he has two tenets of his business. One, best prices. Two, best service. And I got taken advantage of by another realtor. We only endorse those that we do business with, that we believe in, or that if we need their services, we would do business with. And I totally believe in Andy Mason, andymasonrealestate.com. You've probably, if you've moved houses, you've probably had good and bad real estate experiences. You'll only have a great one with Andy Mason, andymasonrealestate.com. So the message board's absolutely lit up today. And Orange Blood says, as things are now, it depends if they play Georgia and Bama every season. So we're talking about, would Ohio State be a perennial playoff team if they, what are you waving your hand for and smiling?
No, I'm just excited about, I have some things to share. So I'm just excited about it.
Yeah. Amanda's throwing heat like roided up Roger Clemens today. Heat.
Going for it. Going for it.
All right. So what do you have? You have something good. You have that gleam in your eye. Is it gleam or glean?
It's glean. So
it's glean.
Guess, just, I don't even want to say guess. I'm just going to run this down. All right. Ohio State versus South Carolina all-time record. 0-2. 0-2. Ohio State versus Florida all-time record. 0-2. Ohio State versus Tennessee all-time record. 0-1. Ohio State versus Georgia record. 0-1. Ohio State versus Alabama record. 1-4. Ohio State versus Auburn record. 0-1-1. Like, this is,
You're beyond Roger Clemens now. You're Mariano Rivera, who is the only player to be a unanimous selection in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. So you went with the heat first, and then you went with the cutter. So that would be the cutter, which is still coming in at 90 plus miles an hour, but just threw me for a loop. So those records, can you combine them real quick in your head? Can you do the math while I tell you something special?
Yeah, tell me something special and I'll do the math for you.
Okay, I'll tell you something special. Zool Beer Company is the official craft beer of Off the Hook Sports. Zool Beer Company has a great location downtown. Zool Beer Company, xulbeer.com is the place to go. Fantastic merch. Worldwide award-winning craft beer. It's awesome. Was that long enough to do math, Amanda?
Yes, Ohio State, 1-11.
1-11 versus SEC teams.
Versus those SEC teams that I just named. Those SEC teams.
The decent ones. Yes.
Yeah, the decent ones.
So earlier, Brandon made a statement, just the grind of an SEC schedule is worth a loss or two that they normally wouldn't have just because of injuries and having to use more of the depth that they keep. I'm going to say that that's not the case anymore because it's tougher than other conferences, but I used to be 100% on board. I don't think that the SEC is as physical as it was previously. Who are the physical teams in the SEC now? Georgia, Alabama still defensively. I would argue offensively, they've got slid a little bit too much to the finesse side. Arkansas. Who else is physical? Who else is just a really physical team that you go into right now this year that you say when you come out of the Alabama game, you want to play a UT Martin next because you're beat all to heck. So, and that's the same case for Georgia. How many teams do you really say that about anymore?
In the SEC this season right now, I'd say you go with obviously Alabama. You go with
Kentucky. Kentucky might be one. They're physical.
Florida's physical. I mean, they're physical. They're not great. They make stupid decisions, but they're physical. LSU is physical. They're going to be physical all year or all the time just because of their talent level. They're not great again right now, but they're going to be physical. Arkansas, I go back and forth on Arkansas. I mean, they can play lights out and they can play like dog crap. So, I mean, it's just like you go back and forth on Arkansas. Tennessee's physical team. You're going to be worn out by them. So I think I'd go with about half of the SEC is physical. Now the Big Ten is pretty physical as well. I think the Big Ten's a little behind on the type of offenses that SEC is really acclimated to. I think the Big Ten's a little bit behind. Ohio State's probably exception. Michigan's looking halfway decent, but when I think of the Big Ten, I think of like Iowa and Wisconsin, where it's still the ground and pound type game. We're not seeing, these Josh Heupel style offenses out there. We're not seeing just a massive amounts of, yards through the air, unless they're playing somebody who is Rutgers.
When I think physical, I think of that Pitt team. And they might not be great, they might not be talented, but you're hurting a little bit. And I was talking to Cooper after the Pitt game and off the air, and he wouldn't mind me sharing this. I said, "What do you feel like?" And he said, "Well, have you ever been T-boned by a car?" And I said, "Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I have." And he said, "Like that?" He said, "It's not like muscle soreness where you go work out." He said, "It's like in your bones." It was that type of game. And I imagine Alabama and Georgia are even a step worse than that. So those are the.
Go ahead.
Nope, you got it.
No, I think Tennessee, I'm just going to say this because Pitt just lost to Georgia Tech. So I think Tennessee, if Tennessee fans want to be, have like a little notch in their belt, I think that Tennessee came out and ruined Pitt season. I mean, ruined it.
Well, Marlon mentioned, and he was at the game, Marlon McKinney of Vols stuff, who is just simply awesome at putting together all the news of the day that you'll find on offthehooksports.com, says, "I didn't count the number of Pitt players helped off the field against the Vols, but there were a bunch."
Yeah.
So Pitt was physical, but Tennessee was, even though they're a finesse team offensively, they definitely matched that. So didn't want to imply that they were out physicaled at all, which I don't think is actually a word. But you can order all your supplements at Nutrition World. Nutrition World is voted one of the best e-commerce stores in the biz. And when it comes to supplements, they've got it all, a great variety, fair prices. Nutrition World, just go to nutritionworld.com and order your supplements there, and you will be very happy that you did. So I got kind of a cool one, I think, today for this day in sports history. But first, we want to play message board bingo, unless you have some other awesome stats to throw at me. The Mariano Rivera of hosts. So anything else out there? Now, I like how you separated, because Kevin the Bacon, who just subscribed, great name. I can't use it, like Dave the Hooker, but Kevin the Bacon.
Not. Please don't.
Kevin the Bacon said that Ohio State is 22-14-3 all time against the SEC. But what Amanda did that I liked is she pulled out the SEC teams that are significant, because, good Lord, everybody has a winning record against Vanderbilt. So
yeah, Ohio State's played like 10 games, I think, against Vandy or something. It's somebody, or maybe it was Missouri that they played 10 games against. But they played 10 games against somebody really bad and won 9 of them. So that's, to me, a little skewed.
It's a lot skewed if it's 9 out of 10, and we're talking about 24 wins. So always the middle of the week when I start to lose my voice, but it will come back. I talk too much, they say, but pays the bills. So Amanda, we want to get to message board bingo. Message board bingo today is brought to you by our friends at Vassy Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it's worth the drive, right there in Cleveland. Whether you're talking about industrial mowers, whether you're talking about commercial mowers, residential mowers. That is, excuse me, Vassy Lawn and Garden, Vassy.com to learn more. It is a message board bingo. Here's the way it works. Amanda reads out a message board post. And if you can tell me which school that this message board post was on, which school's message board, then you can win a Hooker t-shirt. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you better go ahead and jump on board now. John, I'm getting to that. You took away my This Day in Sports History, John. I'm getting
Dang it, John.
I'm getting to that. Okay, so This Day in Sports History is coming up, but first it's message board bingo. Your opportunity to win a shirt. Here we go, Amanda.
So before we do that, I'm just going to rebut somebody really quickly that you said did that. The 20 of those wins that he was talking about came against Vandy, Missouri, Texas A&M, and Kentucky. Those were 20 of the wins. 20. So I'm going to continue on now.
Yeah, and you include A&M. A&M, they've had their ups and downs too. The rest of those programs, Ohio State should beat on a regular basis.
And A&M and Missouri, the majority of those wins were not while they were in the SEC. So continuing on. All right. I can't wait for Hugh to get here. He will raid the portal, and next year's offense will be drastically changed. He'll pluck another Malik Willis and some linemen from other schools, a couple of receivers, and boom, we average 35 points a game. It's an SEC school. Who is it?
I know exactly who this one is. You got 10 seconds to post your answer, and we'll hook you up with a Hooker t-shirt. And you're running out of time. I know exactly who this is. And Kevin the Bacon says that's got to be an Auburn board.
Kevin the Bacon.
Yes,
you are correct.
Brandon to the punch. And that's got to be an Auburn board. It is, Kevin. So I'm going to go ahead and put my email in. You can email me, and I will hook you up with a Hooker t-shirt. All righty. So here we go. It is message board bingo part 2. It means 2.
Yes, I know what it means.
It's like 40 love. Why don't you say 40-0? In tennis? Why do you say 40 love?
I don't know. Okay, so I hope he takes the Nebraska or other job so we can reboot and get someone in here that knows X's and O's and doesn't have to rely on a washed up head coach turned DC/daddy's boy OC. This would be in the SEC.
Okay, now we have a little bit of confusion real quick. Somebody saying Brittany got it first.
Oh,
the last one.
I can't see them.
I can't. Brittany did get it. Brittany got it first. Sorry, Kevin the Bacon. Maybe you'll get this one. All right, Brittany, email me at davidoffthehooksports.com. All right, so Amanda, just repeat this one because I got confused by the last one.
All right, so I hope he takes the Nebraska or other job so we can reboot and get someone in here that knows X's and O's and doesn't have to rely on a washed-up head coach turned defensive coordinator /daddy's boy offensive coordinator.
I don't think I know who this is. John says South Carolina. I'm struggling. Orange Blood says Ole Miss.
Nope.
Joe says Bill O'Brien. I don't think Bill O'Brien has his own.
No, they're talking about a head coach, but yes, Bill O'Brien needs to go, by the way. He needs to go. Somebody come and get him. Thank you.
So is it Alabama? Joe says Alabama. All right. So it looks like we've got our first offer. You guys usually get it.
Woo.
I
won.
Yeah, you won. Who is it?
It's Arkansas.
Arkansas?
I mean, they're very upset by that loss.
I'm telling you, there are some fan bases, and I'm not talking to you, Tennessee fan base, but there are some fan bases that have to realize you are what you are. South Carolina and Arkansas, love them, have fun, go to the games, get hammered. do things you'd never do if it wasn't a game day because you get
weird.
drunk in the middle of the day. I'm not saying do anything weird, but I mean, don't start like heroin. But
Gosh, we've gone off the rails.
have a great time at the game. Enjoy it. Wear your stuff. Support the team.
You're 9 wins at best all the time.
Yes. And if Sam Pittman says that I'm willing to stay here until the day I drop dead, Brittany agrees with me. Sam Pittman is doing a great job there. Yes. If he says I will keep this job until the day I drop dead, then
put him on a diet. You put him on a diet because you want to keep him for as long as you possibly can. Put that man on a diet.
Okay, he comes to you, he goes, I want this job till I drop dead. And he goes, well, it's time for a wellness checkup.
Salads and grilled chicken for you, Sam Pittman, because we're going to keep you here as long as possible, and you pushing it.
It's called Muscle Equity. That's the second book I want to write. Muscle Equity. It's the key. Build up muscle mass and eat all you want.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm the opposite.
I got another book in the works first, but we're not announcing anything yet because somebody will steal it from me. All right. This Day in Sports History is brought to you by our friends at Owl's Nest. Yes.
We have one more.
Oh, do we? I'm sorry.
We always do 3.
I thought we did 3. Here we go.
We did 2. Why we beat this team in football. First of all, actually, why we beat Tennessee in football. First of all, Tennessee has played and beaten no one. People tried to hype their overtime win over Pitt as more than it was. Pitt's first team QB was knocked out of the game in the first quarter, and their backup QB was injured and played on a bad leg the entire second half. He was like a statue.
I'm going to go ahead and interrupt you. You're just giving away shirts for free now. This one's too easy.
No, it's not.
Is it not?
No.
I think I know it.
He was like a statue. Secondly, Florida's offense had 594 yards of offense against UT. UT's defense was trash last year, and it is again this year. We will likely come in as the underdog, and I like the chip we have on our shoulder when we don't get respect.
Okay. I felt certain that it was the team on the docket this week, but I'm wrong, right?
You are wrong. Yes, it's not the team. I wouldn't just say that. I wouldn't give that. My God, that's easy.
Okay. I think I know who it is based off of somebody said, wasn't Clinton a Razorback? Yes, Bill Clinton was a huge Razorback fan. And so the first, Brittany says Kentucky sounds like a UK fan.
Brittany, yes, it's Kentucky.
So
touche, Brittany.
Brittany's winning 2 shirts. So go ahead and email me because she won earlier, David@offthehooksports.com, and just let me know size and color, and you can sport a shirt that says right across the front, Hooker.
Brittany's killing it.
Yeah, some people get it, some people don't. Brittany, I'll leave that up to you. You can decide. And Brittany's so good, we're going to have to institute 1 shirt per winner. And but you get 2 since we didn't institute that rule. This Day in Sports History is brought to you by Owl's Nest Barbecue. Owl's Nest Barbecue is right there in Ooltewah. Owl's Nest Barbecue has all the barbecue needs that you could possibly have, and they will fulfill those needs incredibly well. They will have the sauces, they will have the rubs, they have the wood chips, and they have just the Green Mountain Grill, which wow. It is unbelievable. You can set it with the little ways. They're not wood chips; they're the wood pellets. Is what you do. So if you're not familiar with that yet, it's kind of like it's like an oven, but it's a smoker and a grill. So it's really awesome. Again, that would be our friends at Owl's Nest Barbecue right next door to Steve Ray's Midnight Oil, a proud Michelin distributor. So this day in sports history, somebody stole it from me, but let's do it nevertheless.
This day in sports history, putting things in perspective, exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
You're so old. When you were a kid, rainbows were black and white.
And Amanda LaFratta.
New kids on the block just called. They wanted you as a backup dancer.
20 years ago today, Tennessee beats Arkansas 41-38 in 6 overtimes on a Casey Clausen to Jason Witten touchdown reception that ended it. Still remember that game, covered that game, and tell you what, when it came to overtime and or road games, I don't think there's a quarterback that you would rather have than Casey Clausen in Tennessee football history.
Iceman.
I mean, just absolute ice water in his veins. John said, I was at a family reunion, whole hog barbecuing with family the other day, rooting for UT, and other half rooting for Arkansas. Was a great night and unforgettable. Talking about that game, a lot of alcohol was consumed. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was riding on deadline and about to be a nervous wreck.
I was in high school. Can we bring this whole day full circle, though? Can we bring it full circle?
Yeah. So let's just bring up my birth certificate and talk about how old I am. It'd be full circle.
No, we're going to full circle it because we're going to head back to Crazy Nugs's sports love. And in 2001, MLB's Atlanta Braves. Wait, nope, missed that. No. Hold on. Sorry. 2001, Barry Bonds hits his 71st and 72nd home runs in 11-10 loss versus the LA Dodgers at Pacific Bell Park, breaking Mark McGwire's MLB single season home run record. Full circle.
I don't even know what it was full circle. I don't even know what the juiced record is. It's just like just pushed out. What is the juiced record?
I don't know.
I guess it's 72, right?
Has to be 72 at this point. Maybe a few days later we'll figure out it's like 75. I have no idea.
Aaron Judge is not on steroids. Please, as a Yankees fan, please. I don't want that story to happen in 5 years from now. Have a fantastic day, everyone. She is Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 8:30 for the Down and Dirty at 30 and more. And maybe at some point we'll get to, during the show, the Jacob Warren interview and the Cooper Mays interview. But I'll tell you what, you can check them out on our YouTube channel. Go to offthehooksports.com. We have a story that's about to post by Jimmy Hyams of the Sports Animal. And I've got some stuffs why Tennessee will beat LSU, or at least they should. This has been